Okay, so welcome to our department. That's the Campanile. If you were on campus at any point in your time, that's the tall structure with the clock on it. And there's a Carillon Tower up the top there that occasionally plays some nice bells. This is the Berkeley logos. So I just tell you a little bit about the departmental history. The charter year for UC Berkeley was 1868. Although I look old, that's well before my time. And initially there were 3 technical colleges. There was a College of Mining, a College of Mechanics, and a College of Civil Engineering. We actually are direct descendants of the College of Mining. We were at one point a Department of Minerals and Material Science and Mineral Engineering, Department of Mineral Engineering, and gradually we gravitated towards this Department of Material Science and Engineering that we are now. So MSc is approximately 152 years old, which makes it quite old as far as departments in the states go. One of our major benefactors was a woman named Phoebe Apperson Hearst. You've heard of Hearst Castle and you've heard of the Hearst Publishing Dynasty. Well, this is these are the folks that are at the beginning of all of that. She married George Hearst. When you get inside the building, in the Hearst Mining building, you'll be able to see a picture of him in relief on the wall. So she was the first woman regent of the University of California. She, in 1891, funded scholarships for women students at Cal. And she was also, in 1891, funded an international competition for a campus architectural plan. So she basically, our building is one of the first buildings, one of the first few buildings built on the campus. This is, we shouldn't really quote this because I don't know, it seems sufficiently vague that there was a Latin order at Oxford, but he said there is broader report that in California there is already established a university furnished with so great resources that even to the architects, a lavish kind of men, full permission has been given to spare no expense. Amidst the most pleasant hills on an elevated site commanding a wide sea view, is to be the home of universal science and the seat of the muses. Right, so that's a description of our campus, and our building was part of that campus plan. And so it was designed by an architect who is now famous, a fellow named John Galen Howard. He was given about $900,000 to erect the first building under the campus architectural plan, and that's our building. And it was dedicated to George Hearst, a plain, honest man and a good miner. You can see that dedication. I'll call your attention to the fact that in the early 1900s and late 1890s, that $900,000 was a lot more than it is today. Right now, $900,000 will buy you a very small house, probably 30 miles from Berkeley. But at that time, you could buy this magnificent building. So here's what the Hearst Memorial Mining Building looked like in 1920. And it looks very similar today. There are a little fancier cars around it sometimes, or I should say more modern cars. I don't know how fancy those cars were. You're actually looking at this from a site from an angle that you probably can't see anymore because there's a building erected where you would be standing, so you'd be looking at a wall. But that's the building itself. It's actually a really beautiful building, and we have a really storied history in the department. I'm sure you've heard of the fellow named Boltzmann, right? You've heard of Boltzmann's constant. Well, if you get a constant named after you in science or engineering, you've done something. He came and visited. Phoebe Apperson Hearst invited him to come visit the campus, and he taught during the summer of 1905, and he described Berkeley as the loveliest place one can imagine. And so it's not me saying this. This is Boltzmann saying this. He's the man. Now, one of the traditions at Berkeley that you should get used to is that we have a rich history. We also have a rich history of teasing Stanford. And that history, in fact, dates back to Boltzmann's visit, right, where he described us as the loveliest place one can imagine. But in contrast, he described Stanford as, unlike Berkeley, Stanford University is laid out in a unified, architecturally attractive scheme that seems to me quite unsuitable for educational purposes. So I just, this is Boltzmann again, right? This is one of the greatest minds of all time saying this, so it's not me. But if you're going to come to Berkeley, you need to be prepared to make fun of Stanford, I guess. Anyway, so that's a little bit of dry humor, I guess, because it wasn't that funny. But that's a little bit of a teasing. But we do have some very serious things going on, as you know. We're right now living through what I will call, when I'm an old crotchety man, the Rona years. This is a really unusual time in our country's history, as I'm sure you're aware. There's much uncertainty and stress, and obviously significant changes to how we live our lives. I know that giving this presentation online is a completely new experience to me. It's much more enjoyable for my purposes to see you guys, all you folks in person, rather than talk at my computer. But nevertheless, this is what we were given. And one of the things you might be wondering is now a really good time to go to college. And I think the answer to that is really yes. The world needs you. We clearly have problems, and they need to be solved. So we're here to, you need to better yourself and help the world to solve its problems. That's what we're all about here. So things will be different than they've been in the past for us. For the beginning of the fall semester, the course content will be delivered via Zoom and such, maybe Hopin. As we go through the year, and if the conditions allow, we're hoping to bring people to campus if we can. But if we can't, we're prepared to do everything remotely. And if we do start bringing some people to campus and you can't happen to make it here, that's fine too. We're going to have plans to make sure that everyone can complete all of their coursework in the department completely remotely. We've been preparing for this all summer. Or basically since March, we've been preparing for this. And so courses are being redesigned to be compatible with the new teaching format. We're changing how we assess performance in classes. And one of the things that's true about things that are changing is that as they change, we need you to communicate with your professors, right? So if we make some changes that aren't good, we need to be told so. If we make changes that are good, that could be helpful news too, right? So what we're hoping you'll do as we go through this semester and we learn together how to learn in this new environment, don't merely complain. Communicate with your professors, but don't merely complain. Try and be constructive. And through that process, we will evolve this teaching mechanism into the powerhouse that we've always been. And throughout all of this, I will offer our promise to you is that we're going to work with you to make you the best possible material scientists and engineers that you could be. We're going to work within the constraints we now face while we look forward to the relaxation of those same constraints. And in the end, we're all going to look back on the Rona years and know that they brought out the best in all of us. So that's what we're going to do. So having said that, I thought since you can't see the building as it is today, I thought I would show it to you. This is what it looks like. We don't normally have that many chairs outside. This was at the grand opening. In fact, I've only seen that many chairs once, but there it is, all dressed in blue and gold and ready to go for an exciting opening there. The interior of the building is here. I don't know, can you see my cursor, Lane?
Yes.
Okay, so the Departmental Office, so the front entrance is over on this side, right? As you walk into the building, the Departmental Office is there. That's where you'll meet the staff, and the chair hides in there too sometimes. The classroom is... You got to walk way down the hall, off the screen, and over in the back room to get to most of the classrooms. And there are laboratories on the second floor, and there are laboratories down on the first floor. So the entry floor that you come in is the second floor. This is the third floor and the fourth floor. And this first floor is where most of the laboratories are. And the classrooms are on the third floor. We also have other interesting facilities that will impact your lives as you go through your career here. We have Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratories. One of the most strong cases for coming to Berkeley can be made due to the fact that we share real estate with the actual national lab. We have the world's best microscopes at this laboratory. We have actually a light source, an X-ray photon source at this laboratory. People literally fly in from all over the world to come use these facilities. And while you're here, even as an undergraduate, some of you will use these facilities, and all you will have to do is take a 5-minute or 10-minute bus ride up the hill. So it's really an amazing resources that you will have access to if you get involved in some undergraduate research. So and all of the faculty in our department have joint appointments at LBL. So we're all staff members too, I believe. And so there you have it. Now, just a little bit of news about the program. So this is the 2019-2020 programs and number of enrolled students. We had 133 Bachelor of Science, so that's undergrads like you folks. Of those, about 20 were joint majors. We have 9 students going on this year, I think, for the BS-MS program. So one of the things that's really nice about the program you've entered is that if you feel you want to get a master's degree in material science and engineering, you can do that, provided you performed well enough to get admitted, with one additional year here. So you can get a master's in 5 years. that's been a very popular program, and we think it's a really good one. We also have a Master of Engineering program, which we think all our programs are good, by the way, but a Master of Engineering program that currently enrolled, I think, 14 students last year. I think we'll have 9 this year. And we presently have about 135 PhD students. So all of our undergraduate programs are accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. In addition to that, our undergraduate material science and engineering major is ABET accredited. I will point out that our joint majors, the mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, EECS, bioengineering, and nuclear engineering, are not ABET accredited, largely because the accreditation process was very difficult to negotiate with ABET, and we did not have the resources nor the desire to work through their paperwork. But anyway, our MSc degree is certainly ABET accredited and will be going forward, we believe. So your class, just so you know about who you are, there are 35 new freshmen entering, and we have 9 transfer students entering. This is actually very typical. Well, we usually have a few more new freshmen entering, I would say. And I think that's where, we're sort of all reeling from the coronavirus pandemic, and we're hoping to see those numbers come back up. So you guys are a relatively small class, but that's one of the trademarks of the department, is that we are in fact a kind of a boutique department within a bigger institution. So there's a real small sort of family feel to the department that we really enjoy, and I think you will enjoy it too if you come to get to know your colleagues. Just in terms of recent rankings, we like the rankings when we're rated high. We're not so happy when we're not rated high. Right now we're rated high, so they're obviously the God's given truth. We are, I guess, for undergraduate ranking, we're currently number 4 in the country. For our graduate ranking, we're currently number 2. Some of the universities, the world rankings, we come in number 2 and number 4 in terms of material science departments. So you're entering a department that's viewed as being really strong by our peers. That's what these rankings mean. And I think that the department is in one of the strongest states I've seen it in the 25 years I've been here. And that's not due to my chairship, that's just due to my incredible colleagues who do some really amazing work. Speaking of my incredible colleagues, there they are. These are the Msc core faculty. What you see here, these are people who have, fractional appointments of 1/2 or above in our department. These are people you'll see roaming the halls. You can actually see many of them roaming the halls now if you could get in the building. But presently, you probably will see most of them online as you go through. So we, in addition, have it looks like we have another slot here down in the lower corner. And in fact, that slot has been filled. We're going to have Ahmad Omar is going to join us in July of 21. So many of you will have him for classes down the road. He's a polymer theorist. That doesn't mean he's made of polymers, but that means he constructs theories about polymers. We're really excited to have him join us. And in addition to that, we'll be searching for an additional faculty member this fall. We have a bunch of joint faculty. These joint faculties have full-time appointments in other departments, but also have a zero-time appointment in our department. And this includes our executive vice provost and chancellor, Paul Alasados, Jill Banfield, the former chancellor, Robert Bergenaw, Peidong Yang, and Francis Hellman. We have, I mentioned before that we have LBL close by, and LBL is really quite a resource for us. And in fact, they employ world-class scientists who happen to choose a national lab route rather than an academic route. But sometimes when these folks are enjoying their careers at the national lab, they would like to interact with students more and teach a little bit, and they certainly have a lot to give. So they become adjunct faculty in our department through a rigorous review process, of course. So we now have Miguel Salmeron and Joel Egger and Jaime Zhang. Jaime teaches a microscopy course. Joel teaches a very nice semiconductor characterization course, and Miguel Salmeron is a world-leading expert in surface science, and so he teaches a surface science course. So we're very happy that these folks are helping us out and helping you out, actually, by presenting these interesting classes. We also have lecturer Matt Sherburne. He's an amazing guy who teaches about 3 of our courses and just basically runs the department, which is nice. It's easy to be chair because he exists. So we're really happy to have him on board. We have another lecturer, occasionally part-time lecturer, who's listed on this next slide because he's also a staff member. The department staff, you should get to know them because they will help you. They are some of the greatest people you will meet. They really keep the department running together. They will help you solve any problems that they can help you with. So leading the charge is Catalina Estrada. She's our department manager, handles the academic personnel, so she keeps the professors in line, if you will, and then also handles departmental finances, which these days is not trivial. Ariana Castro actually is our student service advisor for the grads, but she knows a lot about undergraduate stuff too, so you may get to know her a little bit. Daisy Hernandez is our external relations specialist and events coordinator and our GSI reader hiring person. So if you become a reader when you're a senior year, you'll work with Daisy to get employed. She also, when we have the building is open, actually sits at the front desk in the main office and is the first person whose smiling face you'll see when you come in. Medina Kozad, you will get to know her quite well. She's your MSc Student Services Advisor for undergrads. She's in charge of all things academic for undergrads in terms of the rules and regulations of the university and getting paperwork and various other things going. She's absolutely wonderful, so you should get to know her, and anytime you have a problem, I'm sure she'll be more than happy to help you out. Chris Kamai is our principal development engineer, and he's sometimes lecturer. His main job is to make sure that the undergraduate laboratories are running well and interestingly. He works with Chad Southard. Chris also does a bunch of other things, keeping the building running and that sort of stuff too. He works with Chad Southard, our new principal lab mechanician, who's been here, I think, about a year. And they are right now in the process of recording labs for virtual laboratory courses. So you'll see their faces on the labs, and they know all things physical in the building. So you'll see them running around, and you'll get to know them quite well too. Jennifer Trevorbot, she's our building manager. One of the things that became really interesting to me as chair is that I didn't realize buildings needed to be managed, but there's apparently a lot of infrastructure that is neglected, has problems. So Jennifer is the one who makes sure that doesn't get neglected, and the building is actually doing pretty well based on that. So many of you have this, you're coming to do the Msc Major, so here's what the major looks like. These are courses that you start with, some introductory courses in chemistry, math, and physics. You have some humanities courses you need to complete. Do not think of these as sort of second-rate classes for you. It is really key that engineers know how to communicate effectively and clearly. And so the humanities courses, particularly the reading and composition courses, those are really key to your future career. So the better you can write and the better you can communicate your thoughts, the better engineer and scientist you will be. That turns out to be a really big part of what we do. So you take the introductory courses, and the first 2 years are largely introductory courses. There's a material science course, MSc 45 and MSc 45L. You have a choice of taking this in the fall semester or the spring semester when you're coming in. In the fall semester, that's taught by Professor Martin, whose smiling face you can probably see. He emphasizes in the examples and things probably more hard materials because his expertise is in the area of functional oxides. In the spring semester, we have Phil Messersmith, who's one of our appointees, or one of our faculty members who has a joint appointment with bioengineering. And he teaches the same type of material, but his examples tend to come from soft materials, where polymers or biological materials. So depending upon what your interests are leaning towards, you might choose to put this off to take the course from Phil, or you might choose to take it from Lane. If you don't know what you prefer, you can't lose here. They're both great courses, so you could choose whichever one you want. And whichever one fits in well. The math sequence is interesting. It goes math 1A, 1B, 53, and then physics 89. And you see physics 89 and you're thinking, boy, that's not a math course. But it is. Physics 89 is essentially an applied math course. And we added that to the curriculum recently. We replaced a different course because we thought that the physics 89 version of this course was actually much more applied than what our math department offered. And for engineers, we think the applied math is a good deal. MSc 151 is a course in polymers. It's taught by Ting Zhu. It's a great course. You take that in your first 2 years sometime. E40 here is a thermodynamics course. 102 is a crystal structure and bonding and defects course. C85 is a mechanics course. And here we have a math elective or stats data science elective. Right? So we think that you should have more math than just those 4 basic courses you started with. So, or you should be able to get, with the rise of data science and statistics being so important, we think you should allow yourself and be allowed to explore that parameter of knowledge space. And so we actually have required that you do so. You either have to take a higher division math course, or you'll have to take a statistics course or some data science elective. And there are details in all the handbooks finding out which courses count and which ones don't. But you'll want to do that probably in your 5th semester.
Yeah, if you look in the real quick, Daryl, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, folks, there's kind of a list. Left-hand corner, yeah, that one, yeah,
left.
yeah,
yeah, got it.
If you find other classes that you think are of interest here, please tell us, because new classes are coming along all the time, and you can talk to me or to Medina, and we can get that approved as well. This is just a snapshot of some of the things that are out there. But if there are some other courses that come up, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that, just to re-echo what I said before, is in this current pandemic situation, since we don't run into you in the halls, it'd be very helpful if you make an effort to communicate with us about ideas you have for things that are should be changed. We will, of course, have town hall meetings with the entire undergraduate population where Lane and I will chat with you folks and find out how things are going. We'll do that probably a few weeks into the semester. Communicate with us. The faculty are open to it. Certainly, my door would always be open, but if it's not open, my email is always open. So feel free to email myself or Lane, and we will do our best to either respond to what you emailed us, or maybe implement what you suggested, or maybe explain why we can't. But anyway, just keep us informed and let us know how things are going, because communication, I think, is one of the casualties of this pandemic, and we need to make sure that that's not too serious. In the 6th semester,
can I say one other thing, Daryl? Sorry to interrupt. For Physics 89, if we have any of the transfer students who are on here, if you've taken Math 54 or an equivalent in your career, we'll allow you to transfer that in. So that we've built into the process too. Yeah. So you shouldn't be behind or anything in that capacity. Just don't worry about that.
Right, thank you, Lane. I should have mentioned that. I appreciate it. So in the 6th semester, you'll take MSc 103, which is a phase transformations course. I was trained as a physicist, so I never took a phase transformations course. Fortunately, I've taught this once, so now I understand what they're talking about. And I got to say that phase transformations is one of the key areas of material science. So that course is a really great one. MSc 104 is a characterization course. That's another, of course, key area in material science. And MSc 111 is an electronic materials course, so all things Silicon Valley, if you like. And MSc 112 is a corrosion course. So it turns out that corrosion is a multi-billion-dollar problem, and is one of the most important things that we need to understand as material scientists. So we have an expert in corrosion, Tom Devine, who teaches that course. MSc 138.
Hey, Daryl, can I interject real quick? Yeah. There was a question that came up about, I believe it refers to Math 54 versus Physics 89. And the question was, does this apply to freshmen as well? And I think our intention, Daryl, you can chime in on this as well, is that we think that Physics 89, the reason we decided to put this into the curriculum is that it, based on the feedback and our experience with it so far, is that it prepares the students better to apply the math in the following courses that come in their career. And so I think for an incoming freshman, even if you had taken Math 54, there could be an advantage to you seeing it again in the applied sense in Physics 89, and really bringing those lessons home concretely for the rest of your curriculum. So I would kind of say lean towards taking Physics 89, even if you've taken Math 54, an equivalent kind of course before. Daryl, would you agree, disagree?
Let me echo that. We wrestled with Math 54 and Physics 89 for a long time as part of the curriculum committee, and just at the time I've been teaching here. And Math 54, I'm sure, is a great course. But for some reason, many of the students coming through don't understand how useful the math they're taught in Math 54 really is. And I think one thing that's useful about the physics course is that all of the interesting concepts in math are taught within the context of physical problems that material scientists care about, right? So when you're learning about solving partial differential equations, you'll be solving the diffusion equation, or perhaps Schrodinger's equation. When you're learning about linear algebra, you'll be diagonalizing matrices to find eigenvalues for more quantum mechanical problems. So the context within which something is taught actually makes the learning, I think, stronger for most of the material science students. Not all. I mean, there may be some who really prefer the more theoretical math, if you will. But I think the Physics 89 the intent of that was we want to be able to talk about partial differential equations in your upper division courses, and Physics 89 covers that, whereas Math 54 is starting to cover that less and less. We want to be able to talk about matrix manipulations in your upper division courses. And so Physics 89, we know, covers that within the context of physical applications. And so that's why we have sought that course out. And so I really think that, you know, unless you can provide an incredibly compelling reason to take Math 54, we'll probably be pretty insistent that you take Math 89, Physics 89.
And as Daryl, you know, mentions, if anything like that comes up, whether it's this kind of course or anything else where you say, hey, maybe I've taken this, maybe it counts for this, you know, both Medina and I are very happy to talk to you about that, and we're building up kind of a institutional memory of you know, things like this that we've had people ask in the past, and we can try to give you answers and help you on your way on these different things.
Right. So okay. So and then getting back to the curriculum, semester 7, you have a capstone laboratory experience. It's 130A. This semester, it's going to be done over the internet, which is interesting. So we'll see how that works. We're hoping to get people back into the building soon. Material science is 12X, so that's a 120 series course. These are generally processing courses, right? So material scientists not only want to understand materials, but we also want to be able to engineer them, and how we engineer things is through processing. So MSc 12X is a processing course and there are several to choose from. There's 123, which is a semiconductor processing course. There's a 125, which is a thin films course. There's 120, which I think is a sort of a materials processing, how you get things out of the ground course. We have a metals processing course that we don't teach quite often enough. That's 121, but we're working on all these things. MSc 113 is a structural materials course where you'll learn about stress strain and sort of metallic materials and fracture mechanics. And then the final engineering course you have to take is an engineering elective course in this second semester of your senior year, which you could also move around. The other thing I'll call your attention to is the fact that you've got these 5 elective courses, right? So those 5 elective courses are completely open electives, right? So we understand that modern engineers need to understand the world about them. So if you want to study economics, or you want to study business, or you want to study sociology, you want to study current political issues, this gives you the opportunity to branch out and do those kinds of things on campus. On the other hand, if you think you want to get more math courses, and more physics courses, more chemistry courses, more engineering courses, you can do that too, right? These electives are completely up to you, and they should be. You should view these as a way to sort of enhance what you're going to do in your future career, right? This is an option for you to sit back and think about how you're going to run your life, and what kind of elective courses might be very useful for that, right? So it's a way to think outside the box there, and it's really a great opportunity. So are there any questions about the curriculum anymore, or are we good?
There's none other on the list right now, but if you have questions, please write them in there, and I'll bring.
We'll address them, right? So, Okay, so faculty advising. So you have 2 types of advisors. You have an engineering student services advisor, and that person will help you to make certain that you've met all the university requirements. But you'll also have a mandatory faculty advisor, or some faculty advising, where you sit down with a member of the MSc faculty, and they help you understand, which courses are proper, and whether or not you're doing okay, and that sort of stuff in your program. And so the way we've arranged faculty advising is that you have mandatory faculty advising once per year. In the freshmen and juniors, we'll do this in the fall semester. So you should be looking to meet with a faculty advisor very soon as you're coming into this thing, so you can start to get to know whoever he or she is, and get some advice on what you should be taking. So what you'll do there is you'll present your history, where you are, where you think you might go, and the faculty will help you start to plan your program plan your program, which courses, the electives, and things you'll take. Sophomores and seniors do this in the spring semester. And basically, the faculty advisors will set time aside for which you can make an appointment, and you'll meet via Zoom. So we'll get the details to you as soon as we have them formalized. But here are the current slate of advisors. So again, Medina is your go-to contact for student services. We'll post this presentation on the internet when we're done here, or probably tomorrow or the next day. So you'll be able to get the email addresses you need and the people, so you don't have to remember all of this. The current slate of faculty advisors are Tom Devine, Young Chao Wu, Kevin Healy and Ting Zhu, all full professors in the department, all incredibly capable. I would say that Professor Devine is sort of a structural materials expert and corrosion expert. So if you kind of think you're leaning towards structural materials, that type of thing, he might be the one you want to talk to. Yangchao Wu is an electronic materials person for sure. One of the incredibly good. So if you're thinking Silicon Valley sorts of things, Professor Healy and Ting Zhu are both sort of biomaterials folks or soft materials folks. They also know a bit about electronic materials, of course, because some soft materials are electronic materials. And they know a little bit about, medical applications as well. So a little bit, I should say. When I say a little bit, I mean they know a lot. Okay. But all of these people know everything about the program that needs to be known. And so you can talk to any one of them about anything and they will really help you out, I think, right?
I put a link in the chat, folks, which is the advising page on our website where it lists their names and also their specialty areas. So mechanical, like Professor Devine is mechanical properties, but also if you're interested in joint majors with mechanical engineering or nuclear engineering, he's a great person to talk to. So there's a whole list of those folks there as well.
Right. So, one of the reasons you come to a place like this is undergraduate research. Many of you will want to get involved with some research just to learn what it's all about, if nothing else. But some of you may be planning to go to graduate school and beyond. And so the big question that we get often is, how do I get involved in research? Well, when you're ready, what you need to do is you need to spend research yourself. So spend some time learning about faculty research program, what they do. I do theory, Lane does experiment and functional materials. You just go through and figure out every faculty member has a web page. So you can visit their websites, you can talk with graduate students, you can read papers. And after you do all of that, you can decide which groups you want to join. You might want to join, right? Because you have to negotiate that, of course. And in fact, this might be a group in another department, maybe physics, chemistry, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer science, whatever. What you then need to do is you need to ask the faculty lead of that group for an appointment to discuss your prospects, right? And this is the thing. The undergraduate research jobs that people find and the positions that people find are almost never advertised. In fact, in my 25 years, I have never advertised for hiring an undergraduate research person. And I usually have 2 or 3 undergraduates working in my group at any given time. So it's not something that gets advertised. It's something that you have to be proactive about. And you have to go knock on faculty doors, in this case, virtually. So knock on faculty emails and set up Zoom meetings for this semester. And that's really all there is to it. It seems like it should be more complicated than that, but it's not. We all have a vested interest in teaching, folks, and we believe that you learn a lot by doing research. You learn a lot from the very structured aspects of the program, all the courses and things, but there is another whole facet to advancing knowledge that comes about from working in something that's less structured, where when you ask a question, your faculty member goes, I don't know, why don't we find out? That's a different sort of thing, and it's really, really very nice, and I think you'll find it very enjoyable. We have a slide here that's got some pretty pictures about research. Some of these are pretty old. I should update this slide, so you have my apologies. But I rest assured that the amount of interesting research going on within the department and even in our colleague departments is just amazing. You'll be hard pressed to find a more stimulating, broad spectrum of research all collected in one space anywhere else on the planet. I would put us up against anywhere else for sure. So that's a bit of the happy stuff. I do want to just draw your attention to a bit of serious business, and it's actually very serious given the pandemic we now face. Cheating has become really common on campus. Faculty are aware of this, and it's incredibly frustrating because when you cheat, you don't learn what you're supposed to learn, and that means that the world won't benefit from your skills because you haven't developed them. So we want to call your attention to resources that describe what you can and cannot do. There's this site that's listed here. It basically will take you to a page that looks like this, and it talks about academic integrity. And so I want you all to not do this now, but go at some point before classes start, go look at all of the Division of Student Affairs there, the Center for Student Conduct, and look about academic integrity and read about what's expected of you. Because we're going to hold you to this. We really want you to learn what you're supposed to learn and to behave in a way that Berkeley engineers should behave. And the reason for that is that an engineer's reputation is everything, right? If you think about it, what you're doing is you're giving a professional opinion about what will and will not work in a very physical situation. And sometimes this can be an incredibly costly decision, right? So if you choose the wrong material, say, just to pull an example out of a hat, for the Bay Bridge bolts, right, you can cost society $13 billion, right? So not that happened. Oh, wait, maybe it did. So the point is that people need to be able to trust you and your motives, right? They need to know that what you say is right and what you do is right. And so you have to have some, once you soil that reputation, it makes it very difficult for people to listen to you. So don't abuse this trust. People will trust you. You're coming from one of the finest engineering institutions on the planet. So don't abuse this trust. What you need is so don't cheat, don't plagiarize, don't do any of this stuff. It's far better to not do as well as you think you should, and do what you can do and then learn how to do better than it is to try and scam the system. So that's my 2 bits of unsolicited fatherly advice. Given the constraints we have on proctoring exams and things like that during this pandemic, we're really going to have to count on you to be very honest and trustworthy here, and we'll call your attention to that quite often, actually. But after you get it all said and done and you make it through here, and some of you 2 years for the transfer students, and some of you 4, you get to go sit out on the front steps of the Hearst Mining Building, and rest assured you will be there by then. And you get to throw your hats up, right, and see the happiness in your faces, because all these people have just graduated from the best engineering college in the world, and they're pretty happy about it. So that's pretty cool. So I thank you for your attention, and we are more than happy to answer any questions you might have. I'll stop sharing my screen now. Any questions, then it's uncharacteristic because I'm actually shorter than the time was allotted, which is not, that usually doesn't happen. You will learn that faculty love to talk.
Program talk for 1 hour.
Yeah.
We'll just do it if you don't interrupt us.
Yeah. Well, maybe not, but so.
Okay, we have a question that came in for faculty advising. When will information regarding it come out? So, so those folks are listed on the website, as Daryl mentioned, and they'll be setting aside something like office hour kind of things, where they'll probably be online, or maybe make appointments to do through Zoom. They will probably be doing that through Medina. Timing wise, I'm guessing
in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, next couple of weeks they'll get those times out and set up some times as the semester goes on for you to touch base. One thing I would say on the advising is, even if you feel fairly confident in your progress and the direction you want to go, I do think it's worth talking to your advisor, even just to get that reaffirmed for yourself. But I think also, if you're not worried about, the classes you're going to take, this, that, and the other thing, you can start talking about other things, right? Do you want to study abroad? Do you want to do research? Do you want to do all these other things? What are you going to do in the summers? Maybe you can have a conversation with your advisor about those sorts of things where you're maybe a little less sure about the direction. So I think that time is well spent, no matter how you feel about your actual classes that you're going to take. Talking more holistically about what you're going to do in your undergraduate career is good, and doing that early is really important. And also,
okay, where's the? Let me just add a little bit to Lane's thing. There may come a time later in the semester where you realize that you're not performing as well as you did in your high school environment. One of the things that's been interesting for me as a faculty member for these 25 years is the number of students who come here, and when you sit down in a classroom, you're looking at a room full of valedictorians, right? You're looking at people who are at the top of their classes all the way through, and so you're now competing with a completely different crowd than you were competing with in your high school years, and it can be shocking to some that the level of expectation goes up, and so don't be too alarmed if you struggle a little bit in the first few years, or first year or whatever. That means you came to the right place, actually, because it means they're going to push you to be better than you've ever been, and that's what we're trying to do here. So when that happens, what you have to do is hunker down and rise to the occasion and do better. and your faculty advisors will help you figure out how to do that. So go see them if you're worried about things. They can maybe assuage your fears, or maybe they can just tell you point blank what it's like and what you need to do to fix it, which sometimes we all need to hear, I think. So the next question is, where's the best place to find materials engineering internships? Elaine, do you want, or you want?
Yeah, I can start on this one. So there'll be a number of resources for you. So I think there are going to be campus-wide. Well, let me say this: there typically are campus-wide job fairs. I would say we've had mixed experience with the campus-wide job fairs. Often it's simply that the companies that come send a very limited set of recruiters because they have limited resources. And so you can definitely participate in those and see some of the kind of standard companies that are there. In recent history, Matt Sherburne started our own material science career day that was open not just to our students, but to students across the College of Engineering. And we had the first one of those last year. It was a huge success. Hundreds of people participated. The companies were super excited to be engaged. There is a plan to continue this. I don't know how it will work in the virtual sense, but that's being sorted out. And then there are lots of resources that you can find online. So if you're interested in companies, you can, of course, always look at the company websites and things like this. But from an academic and national lab point of view, there are hundreds and hundreds of programs across the nation. If the National Science Foundation runs something called an REU, a research experience for undergraduates, where you can apply to programs at different universities in different topical areas and get paid research. They'll pay for you to travel, pay you a stipend, give you a place to stay, and do research for the summer. So there's a huge range of places where you can find these internships, and I would say try to avail yourself of whatever kind of directions you're looking for, but these are some of the resources that are out there.
So the next question was, is there summer instruction for upper division MSc courses? That's a very interesting question. So as of now, the answer to that is no. But you will realize this semester that there are going to be a bunch of upper division courses that will be recorded in terms of sort of virtual courses, because we're going to record everything we do this semester because of the remote instruction. And so that opens up the possibility that maybe not next year, but maybe the following summer, that we may offer some of our courses during the summer if there's enough demand. But they would be offered using basically the recorded lectures we have here, and then some office hours added to that is what we're thinking of. But we haven't quite sorted that out yet. So
the other thing I would say is that we have traditionally not done summer courses for a couple of reasons. One, our faculty are highly engaged in research, and summer is a very important time for research. And also, our students are highly engaged in internships and research and things like this. And that's kind of a priceless experience that the summers can provide those students, right? So we're not saying that we're not going to do these kinds of things in the future. We're just saying we have typically not done them in the past for those kinds of reasons.
Yeah, and we may not do them in the future if we don't think it's going to.
We have to. It's something we have to talk with the faculty about.
There's a cost benefit analysis, right?
Right.
So,
okay. Next question is about research related to energy and energy materials, energy storage. What are the differences between, say, a chemistry department and a material science department? I can tell you that I started as a chemical engineer as an undergraduate, and not only did I not like it, it didn't like me. It was a mutual dislike. And I quickly found that what I thought chemical engineering was really material science, because I was naive and didn't know. And material science, and at the undergraduate level, is we're more thinking about the mechanisms and the atoms and the crystal structure, and how does the structure of the material at the atom scale and the mesoscale, maybe at the domain structure and grain structure at the micron scale and things like this, how do these things impart properties and performance to the materials that we're talking about? Some chemical engineering undergraduate approaches are much more about like the processing, about the system flow, and it kind of takes the science or the mechanistic aspects of things and kind of hides them inside of black boxes and things like this. So there's a very different mentality at the undergraduate level. That's my experience experiments with them. And that's not to say that our colleagues in chemical engineering aren't doing very nice work. I think you'll be thinking about those problems from a very different point of view, even if you're working on a battery, right? Whether a material scientist is working on a battery versus a chemical engineer. The chemical engineer might be worried more about some of the electrochemistry and the system level performance of that, whereas the material scientist will be saying, how do I structure the electrode to get the maximum density of this, that, and the other thing out of it? This would be my kind of first pass. Daryl, do you have a
I think Lane, with his experience, has really covered it. I will say that I think that in terms of the strengths, relative strengths of the two departments, I don't know if we have more energy research than they do or not.
Right.
I do know that we have some of the world's leading battery development experts, Gareth Sater and Christine Person, who have started, basically gave birth to the field of computational electrochemistry. And it gave birth to something called the Materials Project ultimately. So part of the reason the lithium-ion batteries are so useful these days are because of research that was done directly by Gareth Sater when he was formerly at MIT before he was here. We're really strong. And the other thing I would say that, and Lane touched on this a little bit, is that the hard energy materials, photovoltaics and things like that, that's probably more our domain than chemical engineering's domain.
Right.
So if you're thinking about photovoltaic applications or those kinds of energy materials, I think that's really a material science thing more than a chemie thing.
And the other thing I would say to everybody is avail yourself of LBL as well. There are world experts in energy storage and energy applications, both from a basic kind of fundamental point of view, but also from an applied science point of view at LBL. And so it is not uncommon for our undergraduates to do research with a staff scientist who's a world expert in these spaces as well. So I think between the departments on campus and LBL, you'll be able to find probably very hyper specifically a type of research that would be of interest to you.
Yeah, you should be able to find it here. That is, I think, the strength of this campus. Okay, so a question about undergraduate research with faculty members amidst the pandemic. All right, so I can address some of this, and then Lane can chime in. All right, so right now the building, there is research going on in Hearst Mining Building, Hearst Memorial Mining Building. It's research. It's been done, scheduled in a way so that social distancing norms can be maintained while people are still having access to the equipment they need. So there are people on campus, and I even believe some undergraduates are experts in the lab. So you can get permission. So essentially, it would work in a fashion very similar to what it would work like if we were just open for folks. Now, if you were to join a theory group, you would probably never meet face to face. You would meet flat face to flat face in lab. But if you join an experimental group and are ready to begin doing experiments, then they will get permission to get into the labs, and you will be taught by the people in the labs to do what you need to do using the social distancing norms. I am really optimistic that we will begin to open up sooner than people think right now. But I'm people never call me an optimist, but I'm optimistic about this. And I think, like I said, the first part of any research project is really becoming familiar with what you're going to be doing. And so I think the first part is a lot of reading and discussing and things like that anyway, for any particular research project. So you get started that way too. But there are ways to get you to the equipment you need to get to. And Lane?
Yeah, I will say, I run an experimental lab. We have we're basically running at about I'd say 25 to 30% capacity of normal. I don't think that leads to our productivity being 25 to 30% of normal. I think what we realized is the students were, hanging out and talking in the lab and doing this, that, and the other thing. And now they just come in and do their work and then go and be remote after that for analysis and things like this. So the way it would work is if you discuss with a faculty member and who was doing experimental work and were brought into the group, they would have to add you as an essential researcher on campus. We have undergraduates who are already in that capacity in the department, and you'd have to get your training and things like this done. And there's that's allowable under the rules of engagement for the COVID kind of impaction on research. So but it will be at the expense of another person in the lab, right? So it's really about people per square footage kind of densities right now. So I think have conversations. I'm having conversations with new undergraduates right now who want to join, who had talked to me in the past about joining this fall and things like this, and we're just starting the process of figuring out how to do that. We're also bringing on all of our new graduate students right now as well, so we're trying to get them into the lab. So I think the other thing I would say is maybe be a little patient and know that it might be a little slower than it would typically be to hear back and get involved, but keep at it, and I think there'll be opportunities for you as well.
Yeah. So with the question is, can undergraduate research be put under a work study category? It can, and that's one possibility for funding it, but typically it's not funded that way. Typically it's funded by the research contracts that the faculty member has. I would say it's more typical that people get paid for doing undergraduate research than doing it for free. Would you agree with that, Wayne, or no?
I think there's a hybrid of things. Like I will typically have a student kind of come in on the first semester and kind of, on a volunteer basis, get under their belt a little bit and get trained. And then if they want to stay for the summer, we absolutely will pay them for their research at that point, right? So it's kind of a mixture. I think people do things.
But I do understand it is possible to make work study be part of undergraduate research. There is some paperwork and there may be some rules. One to ask about that would probably be actually, I would probably ask Ariana or
Catalina. Yeah, one of the two. Yeah.
So ask about that if that's something that's of interest to you. Okay. Any more questions? You're welcome. Okay.
Oh, Medina's saying, please stay for the next session, which is the student panel.
So are we going to retain people for this? I don't have any good jokes.
We could give everybody a 5-minute break before, so they can.
We could do that. That would be nice. Yeah.
Have a second.
That's so that you will experience, if you haven't already, you will experience Zoom fatigue during the semester. So it's one of the things that we'll have to learn to handle better.
So take a break when you can.
Take a break when you can. Right. Exactly.
Well, so welcome everybody. Welcome to Cal. Again, if you didn't hear us, we're going to be taking Q&A stuff from meet.ps/MSCA panel. Let me close my door real quick.
But yeah, otherwise, please double click on the presentation screen, and that should allow it to be maximized or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're just using this to present and talk about exactly what we are and how we're trying to help you.
Yeah.
Trying our best.
So what is MSc? I'm sure you guys have seen this from Professor Sean, but this is like the tetrahedron of material science. You got synthesis, processing, structure, composition, properties, and performance. But this is what MSCA is that we help you with your student performance. We help teach you about job and career properties. We help you synthesize the knowledge in your academics, and we provide you some social structure and composition in your undergraduate life. This is like a 3-year-old joke. But actually, what is MSCA? We are an organization that serves the MSc undergraduate student body, so that's you guys, and students interested in MSc, so people outside of our major, and we connect students, faculty, and industry representatives, and organize events to enrich the undergraduate experience. And our most popular events, again, these are things that we do in person, are dinners of the month, where we have like dinners with professors, and it's just like a way for people to chat once a month with like faculty and also like their friends. And it's usually a subsidized dinner. How much is it, Stephen?
It's about $5.
Yeah.
No, we pay $5. We pay 10 to 20 per person. So don't worry.
Yeah. And then we also do corporate events. So we invite people who are recruiting or just want to talk about their company over onto the campus, and then just like it's a way for you to reach out and like learn about like different jobs that are hiring in the material science field. We have general meetings and socials, and that's just a way to like bring everyone together and like hang out a few times a semester. We also have our end of the year banquet, which is called Big Feast, which is a really nice event. And then there's some department events that our lovely office staff like takes care of, and they're really fun. They include like barbecues and ice cream socials and a holiday party, and it's really fun. And we also take part in outreach, so we participate in E4K, which is like when a bunch of these like local elementary school, middle school students come to campus and like do a bunch of workshops. We do an overnight host program, which some of you probably attended. We also participate in Cal Day, where we like do demos and just like a lot of other outreach stuff. Sometimes we get to partner with other organizations like SLE to just like really spread the word of like what MSc is. Okay, so who is MSCA? So, I mean, we're all just undergraduate students. Some of us are not part of our major before.
Before me.
Okay, yeah. Well, some people are part of our major. Some people are out. Some people are double. So we're all not just pure MSc. And yeah, that's who we are. All right, I'm like really bad at this. So here are just some photos of like what goes on. So here's where we're at Pasta Bene, which is like a popular Italian restaurant where we hung out with Asta and Al Belushi. That was really fun. And then here's like a picture of like our tech talks. I don't know if these are recent or not.
The one on the right was recent, and we had someone come in from Intel and from Applied Materials. They were both alumni of the undergraduate program.
Okay.
No, Intel and Apple, my bad. And they just talked about how the experiences here helped them get their jobs and how to get into industry.
Yeah, it's like a mix of like alumni and then just the companies that come. Like we usually get 3M, Procter and Gamble is a popular one that comes by. Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but we do have a lot of companies that come here and like talk. We also host like study sessions, so we just like book a room and get some snacks, and people can come and like just study together. We have like social. Sometimes we go ice skating or bowling, and we do a lot of making liquid nitrogen ice cream. And then again, we have our overnight host program, which is for those of you who got to do the online version. This is what the real version looks like. Almost exactly the same, where you just have professors awkwardly standing in the front, answering questions about things. But there's also like we do a whole like lab tour and all that stuff. And it's a way for us to like, hopefully convince people to come to our program and just show how wonderful Cal is. And we also celebrate the holidays. So we decorate for Halloween, and we also decorate for the winter holidays. And like we said before, there's like a holiday party that the department hosts, and it's really fun. And here's a picture of Big Feast, hanging out with professors and people, and you get to like dress up fancy, and it's a really like stunning event to be a part of. And here's like the outreach work we do. So I think these are E4K and Cal Day. So just like teaching people about things is part of what we do in MSCA. And we also are connected to these professional societies. So SPE is a Society of Plastic Engineers, and SAMPE, Stephen, do you know what SAMPE stands for? Can't remember. It's like Society of Material
Processing Engineers, I believe.
Yeah. So we're associated. There's like professional societies for for people in the field, and a lot of times they'll do their own like webinars or like tech talks, and we get to take a part in those things. And also there are a lot of scholarships that are associated with these societies that we provide. So how do I take part in MSCA? There's two ways. So you could be a general member, which all of you guys are pretty much general members. There's no application. You just show up to our events and attend whatever fits your schedule and what makes you happy and what gives you value. And yeah, there really is no commitment. All of our events are open to anyone who is just interested in MSCA. Bring your friends along or bring people outside of the major. And then there's also becoming an MSCA officer. So that's what all four of us are. There is an application that's required, and we do select people based on how big we want our club to be and where there are openings. And that's where you get to plan the events and the programming that we host. You get closer connections with faculty and the companies we work with. You get to gain leadership skills and be part of like a tight-knit family. I know all 4 of us have been in MSCA for all 4 years. Am I correct? Yeah. So we've been hanging out forever. And we also get to go on retreats like this one where we went to Santa Cruz, which is really, really fun. And so like come to our first general meeting. It's Wednesday, September 9th, 7 to 9 p.m. on Discord. There's more details later. And we could probably put the link in the chat as well. And then that's where you'll learn about our events for this semester. And you'll meet people from other years. So it's not just freshmen that show up. Usually a lot of people just come to this event every semester just to like say hi to people and reconnect, especially after the summer. And you can also apply to be an officer. So the application will be released then. We will have like an office hour where you can like come meet us and also ask more questions about MSCA and get some help on the application process. And then it'll be due 11:59 September 18th, so about a week later. Yeah, and then so follow us on all of our social media. We do send a lot of email newsletters. So check those. It's usually like if you have your email set up, it's like usually in the updates tab. Yeah, and we also put a lot of stuff on Facebook. And we also just made this Discord, which is really cool. And maybe I can show you guys later, but basically we have like channels for different years and classes and just random stuff. And that's probably where we'll host a lot of like the student-oriented like events on there. Yeah, and welcome to Berkeley. Woo. Okay, this is so weird when there's no like other people, but it's okay. So student panel time. So we should like do introductions here, like the first 5 questions. Don't look that I like was half typing this while I was eating food like 20 minutes ago. And if you guys have any questions, try to put them in like meeting polls so that we can like see them too. I'll be like checking them. But yeah, let's start going around and if you guys can answer these 5 questions. So let's start with Steven.
You're not going to start with yourself?
No.
Okay, so can you go back?
She gets to go last.
Yeah, so my name is Steven, and I'm majoring in material science and engineering, and I'm minoring in physics, and I'm from Torrance, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. And I'm only really involved in MSCA, which is this club, and the GGSO, which is the Golden Gate Science Olympiad organization. What research am I involved in? Oh, that's a big question. I'm involved in nanomaterials research, electronic materials and nanomaterials with Professor Yao, and also nanomaterials theory with Professor Iran Rabbani. So if you're interested in any parts of nanomaterials, just hit me up after this or whatever, and I can talk extensively. What did I do this summer? I joined the Rabbani lab this summer. I signed up to do research, and then COVID said, no more research for you. So because of that, I decided I need to be able to do research from a distance. So I decided to join a theory group. Best advice for online learning: make sure to stay on top of lectures. If lectures are recorded, it's very easy to say, I'm going to watch this lecture next week. And next week comes, and then you have 4 or 6 lectures to watch, and then you'll just think, stay on top of lectures. Don't let yourself fall behind. Make sure that at the very least, just like watch your lectures at the correct week.
Okay, Amanda, do you want to go?
And I'm an Msc major, and I'm minoring in public policy. Also from Torrance. Steve and I have known each other since middle school, so it's great to be in the same org now. Other student orgs I'm in, I'm a part of Society of Women Engineers. Done some stuff here and there with Engineering Student Council. I don't know. There's a bunch of things I've tried on campus just because like I wanted to try them. So I've also instructed a decal. I'll be instructing E98 in the fall. Which is the Intro to Berkeley Engineering. So you should sign up. My section is Monday, 3 to 4. It'll be really fun. I'm also part of a Christian fellowship on campus, InterVarsity Cal Christian Fellowship. And I used to play intramural basketball and soccer before COVID sent us all home. In terms of research, I'm in, oh my God, why did I just blank? I'm in the shoe lab. So I do polymer research. So working with how polymers affect like crystallization when you attach them onto like gold nanoparticles. But unfortunately, that also got like canceled early before I got really involved. I've also done Europe on campus, so I'm part of the Khalid lab where we're doing things with carbon nanotube biosensors. So right now we're looking into how we can use it to detect COVID pretty early. So that's been pretty fun. Over the summer, I was actually really fortunate and got to be in person for my internship. Shu Lab, that's you. Yeah, so she's one of the polymer professors. Over the summer, I was in Boston, actually, so I got to do my internship in person. So I was working at Form Labs, working on 3D printing. My project specifically was working on their New Balance project and developing like resins and other materials to be used to be printed for like shoes and stuff like that. Best advice for online learning. Man, Steven took the really good one. I think, okay, it's kind of like almost counterintuitive, but also like give yourself a break. Like if you can't focus during that time, don't go. Like you're gonna waste your time if you're just like gonna be on your computer and like playing Tetris on the side. So like make sure you're ready to be learning when you do like go onto your lecture, I think. Yeah, like try to make sure you aren't like tempted to be distracted. If you need to, download one of those apps that like blocks other websites. But yeah, like really try to do what works best for you to stay focused.
Nice. I guess I'll go next. My name is Hannah, and I'm majoring in mechanical engineering and minoring in material science and engineering. Yeah, and I'm from San Jose. I'm in Msca and also in Berkeley Tennis Association, which I'm not sure what we're going to do this semester, but we'll see. And research I'm involved in is I'm in Richie's lab, and he does like fracture and fatigue, and my project was doing I was working on testing the fatigue on the type of high molecular something polymer. I don't know, very long name, I don't remember anymore, which I haven't really got a chance to get back on since the whole COVID thing happened. And so over the summer, I had a virtual internship for a VC company, which was kind of like out of nowhere, but also just very interesting to just see what's out there in the world. Advice for online learning, I would say, is to have like a good space to learn and making sure like you have like no physical distractions around you, like not having parents yelling at you from like the other like door or whatever. Like make sure it's a good learning space. So you could have that mindset. Yeah. Jana.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Jana. I am a material science and engineering and a minor in bioengineering. I'm from San Francisco, California. Student organizations I'm involved in. I'm part of a multicultural sorority called Sigma Psi Zeta. I'm part of Army ROTC, and I do a lot of stuff with the ESS Center and the CIEE, that's where I tutor. Research that I'm involved in, I do research in the kidney lab, so that's the bone mechanics lab. So completely different from material science, but we basically do like characterization and failure analysis of bone, and my research is focused on what happens after you get like radiation therapy for cancer patients, because a lot of them suffer for like have a higher risk of bone fractures. So figuring that stuff out. What did I do over the summer? I had a lot of stuff canceled, so I ended up taking summer classes. So I took CS61B, which is data structures, which I had a really great time in. And I also took this NutriSci course, food, culture, and the environment. And then I was supposed to help some lab do research, and then they ghosted me until like July. So I'm doing some algorithm building for this for the Army Research Lab in Maryland. And then best advice for online learning, make your bed. I think a lot of us tend to like slump in our bed, and I think it's best to like just get out and like sit at a desk and like learn. And I think making your bed is probably like the first step that you can do to like turn your brain on, say like, all right, it's time to start the day. Yeah. I guess we could start with like questions that are here. So how cool is Steven?
2 out of 10.
Someone who's known him for a very long time, like 10 years. Do I have to be honest?
2 out of 10.
Yeah, 2 out of 10 sounds about right.
Oh no! I Steven like a 3 out of 10. Like, I'm not gonna lie. When I first met you, you were like a 0.5 out of 10. And then as we became friends, this is like my initial like feelings of you, and now you're like one of my closest friends that I like complain to you. So yeah.
Closest is 3 out of 10. Nice.
Okay. You don't have to be cool to be friends, right? Like, I think Steven is like out of the friend list. Yeah, he's like 9 or 10 out of 10, right? But like, is Steven cool? I mean, what are you defining as cool? Because Steven's kind of nerdy, so I don't know.
That's true. Okay, let's move on to other questions. Wait, you get to see this. Yeah. What are the differences between Europe and directly contacted professors? Probably Amanda or.
I typed that one up.
Yeah, I think Steven mentioned it a little bit, but I think like the actual like difference. So Europe, so for research, you can get units for research and get them graded. Europe, first of all, the difference is you can't get graded units. You only get pass-fail units. But I would say that Europe is more of like a mentorship type of thing. So you probably won't have as much like hands-on independent work, but you get to learn a little bit about research and hopefully maybe like convert to something a little bit more involved in the future. But yeah, Steven put it pretty well. Like a lot of MSc professors don't do Europe. I think Europe is also pretty temporary. So like a lot of times you'll only be part of the lab for like a semester and then you can leave, and it's pretty low commitment. But I know, at least in my experience talking with like my grad students, she says that for their lab, for like the shoe lab, at least they want students who can commit at least a year or two to their lab because they don't want to just have someone there for a semester and leave. So I think that's probably a pretty big difference for MSc. At least they probably want you to stay longer in that lab so you can learn a lot more skills and be involved. But Europe, it'll generally be a project that you can probably finish in a semester or kind of just like help out. I think in terms of which one I recommend, you can try both. Like Europe is a pretty good way to just kind of like get your foot in the water, I think, and gives you a little bit more experience when you go talk to professors about research, especially if you have no idea what you want to do. I think, Steven is cool. Wow, okay. Hot take business. But like for Europe, I think, I forgot what I was thinking because I was thinking about Steven being cool. I was so shocked. I forgot the rest of my thought. But I think, yeah, like Europe is probably a little bit easier. Europe is a really good chance to get involved in research that isn't related to your major. That's what I was going to say. To be fair, I have not done that, but I know a lot of my friends who are in like engineering will go and help with like the psych lab just because they think the topic is interesting. Yeah, so I think Europe is pretty good to try something new like that. But in terms of like, if you want to go to grad school or really learn like hands-on skills relating to what you want to do, I would recommend contacting a professor. I found it more successful to contact grad students because in my experience, grad students are the ones who actually like say, yes, I need this undergrad to help me because the professor's kind of busy. I would still email the professor, but definitely email grad students too. Yeah.
Okay, we'll mark this as done. When did you start doing research? So for me, I started pretty late in like on-campus research. I started literally last semester in January. But I did research over the summer before that, and then I guess kind of this summer.
I started the summer after freshman year, so I started really early, I would say. I feel like the normal time to start is in the middle of sophomore year.
Yeah, I started second semester sophomore year.
Yeah, I started Europe second semester sophomore year, and then on-campus research last fall. Yeah, so a little bit later.
Okay. Go listen to that. I like my phone. I got a new Apple Watch, and I'm like still trying to figure it out.
Nice.
What qualifications did you need for research/internships? I don't know. I think I just had classes and enthusiasm, and I guess like recommendation letters from faculty. I think coding experience can go a long way. Like any lab will take people who like code, especially like, you'll learn a lot of scientists don't know how to code and they just do stuff on Excel sheets and it's like really inefficient. Yeah. Do you guys have any?
Yeah, from my experience for research, the Yale lab accepted me with essentially, MSc 45. That's the only legitimate class I had at that point, which is just the Intro to Materials course. That was because that's an experimental group and they're more fine with just like me having a large amount of patience. That's the more important part. for the second lab, I joined the theory group. They basically asked, do you know quantum mechanics and do you know how to code? Because it's both important to be able to do computational and theory work. So it depends on what group you join. You should probably just ask the PI, and they'll have different levels of qualifications that they'll need you to have.
I think it really depends on like who, because like for me, I didn't really have any qualifications. I kind of just like gave them my resume, and then one of the grad students was just like, "Yeah, I'm down to pick you up. Let's go," and that was kind of it.
I think for internships, it also depends, right? But I feel like in my experience, like you learn so much on the job. I feel like sometimes a lot of the things you learn in class, like they're good like background things, so you're not like completely confused by what the word polymer means when they use it at work. But in terms of the actual things you're doing at work, you'll learn a lot about on the job. So I think like what they're usually looking for is like people who are willing to learn. Like I think that's a really big thing. People who are curious and people who ask a lot of questions. Like I think for like internships, they just want to see potential. I think in terms of qualifications, an incoming junior probably has more like classes that they've taken that might put them at an advantage over an incoming sophomore, but also they do have positions like companies want to recruit younger students. So if that position isn't right for you, they'll probably find a different one that might be, a little bit easier for you to like kind of get into in case the work is a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, I think I also want to like debunk the myth of like when you're applying to research or internships, like no one's gonna throw you onto a project and have you like be, managing these like experiments or whatever. A lot of times you'll probably be doing like the work of like just doing, tasks to help the researcher with what they're doing and collecting data. And that's stuff that you'll learn along the way, and you'll learn more about like the concept in general of what their research is about just along the way. Hopefully, yeah. I'm gonna start with like something that's like, yes. When does the internship application process start, and what year do you recommend applying?
I think like, okay, as a freshman, you should definitely try, but it's obviously going to be a little bit harder. I think as a freshman, try, but don't get discouraged. As a sophomore, try, and then try harder because I think you have a better chance. And as a junior, I would really recommend applying because I think, especially if you're not planning to go to grad school, having an internship after your junior summer is a really good way to like convert into a full-time offer after. The internship application process varies for a lot of companies and also for majors. So I would say for MSc, it doesn't start as early as like CS does because CS has a lot of technical coding interviews, like multiple rounds. So don't get intimidated when you hear like your CS or EECS friends talking about how they're already recruiting in like now, like August. I would say for the internship I had this past summer, I started in like September, October, I think. And then I got the offer around like late October, November-ish. So I knew pretty early. But I also know a lot of material science companies, like their deadline is like December 31st. So I would say it kind of starts around like next month for MSc, but it can go until like January to apply. And then you might get your offer around March or April. Yeah.
Yeah. And also like if you're a freshman, like honestly, I don't think like it's worth worrying about it. Like don't think about like recruiting while you're going through your first semester at Cal. Like that seems like understand your like abilities and stuff. And, it might be good to like, take more classes over summer, or there are a lot of like miscellaneous like research internships you can probably pick up that recruit in the spring semester instead of the fall. Cause that's kind of what I did. Like I got my random ass internship at like the Innovative Genomics Institute, literally like dead week or finals week of the spring semester. So don't feel pressured to like recruit at all during your first year.
I think like all of my friends actually agreed that we wish we didn't work after freshman year and we wanted to study abroad instead. Because I feel like yeah, Hannah studied abroad, right?
Yeah, I studied abroad the summer after freshman year, and it was like the best thing ever. I highly recommend.
Yeah, I really wish I did that instead of working because I feel like I didn't do important work after my freshman year. I was kind of just like making money, which isn't bad too, right? Obviously, it depends on everyone's situation, but yeah, it depends on like what the COVID situation will be like.
Right.
Definitely think study abroad if you can. Like, when else are you going to get that opportunity?
Exactly. Yeah. It's only for college.
Okay. How cool is MSCA?
I think I bring up average. I definitely bring up an average.
I guess.
I think it depends on like
We should kick
who in
some.
MSc you're talking about, because like Steven is like, you know, on the downside, but like
All
Can we
the
kick
females
everyone?
in MSCA are really cool. All
Girls
the-
are super cool. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on. Is changing to chemistry hard? Well, none of us changed to chemistry, so
that's usually not the route.
It's always the other way around. Chemistry.
Mhm.
MSc.
Yeah, chemistry is a lot
I
harder.
mean, honestly, talk to your advisor. Probably the earlier you do it, the better. Keep your GPA up as best you can, because Cal does this thing where like, oh, if you like have a bad GPA, you can't switch to things. But maybe you're having a bad GPA because you're in the wrong major.
Boom.
True, that is so true.
But yeah, talk to your advisor as soon as possible, because I think it's probably easier to do it when you're like just coming to Cal and
Yeah.
want to make that switch instead of like when you struggle through classes that you didn't even want to take. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Would you recommend doing research as a freshman, Steven?
Only if you figure out what you want to do by then.
Yeah.
True.
Because, like, I got lucky that I ended up in a lab that I was interested in, like, even now in freshman year. But, like, high-key, I didn't know what I was doing back at the end of freshman year. I had no clue about any of the scope of the research at all. So, like, if you can figure out what you want to do, go for it. But, like, that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, and I think like you might think you know what you want to do, but that shit can change like in a minute.
Mhm.
How
I can
many of us
attest to that.
came in here thinking we were gonna do something with EECS?
Oh my god. All right. What's the general time commitment for a lab?
Wait, lab class?
No, like, I'm assuming research?
Like research lab?
All the classes have been about research, right?
Oh, I
We
feel
could
like
do both, I guess. So for
Yeah.
True.
at least my lab, it's like at least 10 hours a week. If you're just doing it for volunteer / like pass no pass units. Once you get like a graded unit, you want to put more time, and then if you're getting paid, you should obviously work the hours that you're paid for. I don't know if anyone has anything different.
Yeah, it's
10
also
plus sounds
yeah.
right.
you. You can
Sounds right.
communicate with your grad student like, I'm busy, and they're like, okay, like
Yeah.
yeah.
It's very flexible, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. My grad students have told me many times, just whenever it's finals time, don't come into lab. Just study for finals. You need to study. You need to get good grades.
True. True.
They
Care
Asian
about
parent
us.
me.
Oh, that's cute. It's funny because they're all Chinese in your lab. Where do you hear about internships from for future use? Oh, not right now. So like the people in the front desk, Ariana and like Medina will send you a lot of stuff. And
So
that's
many
where you
emails.
can get. That's probably where like half my opportunities came from. Was from that. The engineering newsletter. People like ignore it. There's a lot of stuff that's there. Go to Tech Talks. Go to other student organizations Tech Talks if you can. If you're like interested in like where MSc and Msc go together, or Bio-Msc, or sorry, Bio-Msc. That stuff. I don't know. Where did you guys hear about your stuff? Your internships?
I go on Handshake a lot. Like I'm always on Handshake, just like looking around, or like LinkedIn, seeing what's up.
Yeah, I think I found my last one online. I think it was on LinkedIn, and then the one before I got to Swede. So I was at the Society of Engineers conference, and they have this like huge career fair, and then I just went up to the Northrop Grumman booth, talked to the lady, and then I got a job. Yeah.
Okay. When did you study abroad? Hey, Hannah.
Oh, I studied abroad summer after freshman year.
Where did you go?
I went to UK.
Oh.
Yeah. The program I did was purely just for fun. Like I didn't really want to like do any requirements. I did get one of my the humanities and social science requirements out of the way, the upper div one, but nothing like towards my major. Because it is kind of hard for engineering to do that. There is one, I think, for E40 for MSc where you could do it in like I forgot where, somewhere in Europe, which is
E40 has some thermodynamics, by the way.
oh yeah, thermodynamics. Sorry. Yeah. There's one program for that, and I think there might be some programs for physics, so like lower div physics. But
yeah, I know a lot of I think a lot of like pre-med people, if they want to go study abroad, they take physics like in
Yeah.
Ireland. It's easier.
yeah, they do that. It's really cool. But yeah, if you do want to like go for like a semester or something and have requirements like fulfilled from that, you would have to talk to like your advisor and like just trying to figure out like what matches and what doesn't. And there.
Okay, cool. Favorite professor.
All right,
we
yeah,
should
on here right now.
professor.
Like, I don't know who there's one of them on here right now. I don't want to like make anyone feel
Oh wait, damn it, we don't know.
Wait, this is
present. All the professors who are present are my favorite. I love taking this class.
Oh, great.
Actually,
Well,
I love
outside of our department, worst professor do, I guess.
Oh, I love actually like in all honesty, I've loved all of my MSc professors, like all of them. Like all of them have been so helpful. They're so patient. They know so much. Yeah, and they just listen. They're really good listeners too. Like when you just ask them like for help, like they understand and they like hear you. I think. Yeah, I've loved all my professors. Yeah, no cap.
I think the MSc professors are they're pretty. Everyone's pretty cool and very helpful, and like willing to teach. I think like you won't get like the nightmarish professors in our department. That's where you find them elsewhere. Msc. And like, but yeah, like most professors like they show up, they teach, they're interested in their topics. Grading is pretty fair. No one's like trying to fail you, and yeah, it's a good catch. I didn't know that for professors.
Me neither.
All right, moving on. Join us on our Discord. How much time does MSc take up a week? Does it fit the stressful engineering stereotype? Obviously, the time this major takes depends on what you choose with your classes and what you want to do with your undergraduate experience. I think for the most part, it's manageable. Also, yeah, and it depends on units and classes. I think it's not extremely stressful. Engineering itself is stressful, but I don't see people like pulling all-nighters studying for exams because it's hard. It's usually because people are procrastinating and having a bad time. Yeah, you won't get like assignments that you're going to be staying up all night and crying over because you just can't figure it out. That happens a lot in like I think CS and Msc.
Yeah.
Mine is self-inflicted. If I'm ever stressed out, it's totally self-inflicted. It's never my professor's fault. Like never.
Yeah, and I think the standard for MSc classes is you'll have a problem set due every week. You'll have 1 or 2 midterms and then a final, maybe a few projects here and there, presentations, but nothing like, extremely stressful. And I think the grading percentages vary between professors. Like some people really value their finals and their midterms. Some people really put emphasis on homeworks, which is helpful sometimes.
I also feel like it's not competitive. I feel like MSc has been one of the more collaborative environments I've been in. Like, I think I've experienced that like people that I've taken classes with are genuinely interested in like my success as well and like my understanding. Like I've asked someone a question before and he literally like looked at me and was like, did you actually understand it or do you want me to explain it again? Because like he didn't want me to like just say I understood it to, like so I wouldn't waste his time. Like he really wanted me to learn the material. So.
Yeah. I think maybe that culture comes from like everyone has like such different like interests in material science. So like you aren't really competing against each other because people want different jobs. Like I haven't really met a lot of people who are like, oh, we're interested. All been pretty spread amongst the board. And then unlike CS, which I think like everyone's like, I want to work at a tech company, make big bucks, and then
yeah,
right.
Makes sense.
Okay, what are tech talks? So tech talks are basically when like a company, like for example, Apple, comes to our campus and they basically do a presentation on like what is it like to work at Apple, what is it like to work at Apple as a material scientist or engineer in general, the positions they have available, work culture, maybe some upcoming projects they might have going on. And sometimes they're just like recruiters or actual alumni who are from Cal, and you get to like talk to them and express your interest in that company. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. What is the difference between a joint major and a minor? Does anyone?
Oh, I have experience in both. So I started off as MSc major, and then I switched to the Msc and MSc joint major. And the joint majors, most joint majors have like the coursework of like 1.5 majors. So it is like pretty intensive, and it does require like a lot more. And there's not much flexibility with like extra classes that you want to take. But it's like something that you would do if you were really interested in both majors, but don't really want to pursue a double major. And as for a minor, it's more just like if you have an interest in it, but not like super committed to it, they should try it out. That's what they have. Yeah. That's my take.
Okay. How do you get your textbooks and physical versus ebooks? So I guess how I get my textbooks, I feel like for my lower divisions, I got the paper ones because I thought that was the correct thing. And then are we allowed to say this if professors are here?
Oh.
Yeah, you are. I've had professors hint at me before.
I have had to,
That is true.
So in all honesty, I think I get like half my upper div like textbooks from links that Steven sends me.
Oh, calling Steven out. Okay.
libgen.
Libgen actually.
Libgen.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think ask upperclassmen. They will usually have the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you guys are on campus, so this is like trade secret, is that you can go to the libraries, and if your professor is like nice, they'll like have a copy at the engineering library or a few copies of it that you can use, course reserves that you can use in the library. They're on like 2-hour increments that you can borrow from, and that's just nice if you like the physical textbook. But unfortunately, you guys aren't in person, so I think all the textbooks now are PDF available, or should be. And I think there's like a benefit to like having the physical book because it just feels nicer and you can flip through pages easier. Ebooks are nice because you can do control find and like easily go to chapters. So it really just depends on your personal preference. Also, you get to like highlight in them and stuff. Okay. Do you really have to like chemistry to like material science?
No.
Not at Berkeley. Berkeley's program is very physics based.
I have taken zero chemistry courses so far.
Same.
Oh, you haven't taken Chem 1B.
Oh, yeah.
Steven, you're trying to take like an alternative
I'm trying to take an alternative.
quantum computing
Hey.
course.
Chem 1B is awesome.
It's computational chem that we switched.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to like chemistry. There's a lot of other parts of material science that you can enjoy.
Yeah, it's good to have a background in it and just understand how it works, obviously. But I think you kind of need to like physics. That will probably help.
Yes.
I learned I like physics in college because of material science.
That's good.
If you do really love chemistry, you can still study a lot of chem stuff or do the joint major with chemie. Yeah, like there are options for you to take more chem-based classes, but I will say a lot of the MSc classes themselves are more physics-based.
Yeah. Do you get your books before classes start or after the first week?
Generally,
Remember, Steven sends me the link.
if you can find it online, get it before. But if you can't, wait, because not all the books aren't always necessary.
I always get it after. Because other people have found it by then. Like, that's my logic. Other people have found the book by then, or like know where to get the book, or will send me the link for where to buy it, or something like that.
Yeah. I think it also just depends on your professor. Like, I know Professor Sean for MSc 102, like his textbook is literally his notes. And it's a godsend and great. And you don't need to read any of the other books that he like suggests in his syllabus. If he does, I don't remember if he did. Yeah. There's no harm in waiting. If you want to get ahead of time, go ahead. I would just avoid if it costs money. Just wait a little bit. Are study groups useful? Yes.
Oh my
Oh
God. They saved my life.
Yeah, it's just really.
Oh, this is where we're supposed to shield, Jana. Join our Discord because we have individual channels for classes, MSc classes, and hopefully you'll be able to find people to work with there.
I will never forget the day before the MSc 102 final. There were like 10 of us sitting together at the library for like a full day. And that is the reason why I did okay on the final. Like everyone was there going through like old finals and old exams and like helping each other. It was great. Yeah. It's so useful because you might know something that someone else doesn't, and they probably know something that you don't know. So
Yeah. Okay, as like the person who was like as smart in like some of the study groups, like don't be afraid to be in these study groups because you might be with smart people. That's where Steven is in my thing. And you might help that, like some people, they really appreciate having someone to explain their thinking and their knowledge to, and you can help them catch any like small like math mistakes or things that they have because they wouldn't be able to do that on their own.
yeah.
And you can learn from other people, or you might have a better grasp. Yeah, same with Amanda. Like you might have a better grasp of one concept, and someone might have a better grasp of like another concept, and you can share in that. I think that's all the questions we have.
Oh, but I realize there are some on the chat that we've been ignoring.
I think we got through some of them, right?
When we say use meaningfuls.
Let's see. Oh, I cannot say I have physical textbooks.
Oh yeah, I don't have physical textbooks either.
Oh yeah, when I say like the front desk, they're like the department staff people. So it's Medina, Ariana, Daisy, and Catalina. Okay. I mean, preferably I would like a meaningfuls because it's easy to like pick off once we've like, answered it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you guys want to ask questions yourself, go ahead. We also have, I think, a couple of questions I had. Oh yeah, do you guys want to look through which one of these you guys are interested in answering? So, here, this one. What is your favorite MSc class and why? Favorite non-MSc class and why? I think my favorite class is probably MSc 113, which seems like super out of nowhere. But, okay, let me explain.
I love what you're talking about. Whoa.
Because I was also taking another
explain the numbers.
Course. Huh?
Wait, we should explain the
What is
title of the
113?
Okay, yeah.
113.
So MSc 113 is the mechanics of materials. So we learned a lot about fracture and fatigue and all that stuff. Like, when do materials break? How do we know when it breaks? And it was probably the first course where I actually felt like what I was learning was very applicable and made sense. Like, I remember one of our problem sets was like, you have an airplane window and it has a crack. Do you leave the airplane or do you stay?
Oh yeah.
And you calculated, like, you know, based on like the parameters, whether or not like you should stay or not. We're like, is it going to break or not? And I also liked it because I was taking a biomechanics course at the same time. So they both were intertwining. But I thought as like kind of like hard to listen to Richie was, it was just still really interesting in my mind. And it felt like I was learning something that like made sense to me. Yeah, and then we also had a great time with our GSI, which is our graduate student instructor.
That's amazing.
Yes, I love her.
I love you.
She was very lovely, but also forgot to print our exams one day.
Oh yeah, that was great.
And then favorite non-MSc class, probably Data 100, which is the like upper division intro to data science course. And I think all of that stuff is like really applicable, and like you do really interesting problem solving with like, oh, how do you predict like the housing price in Boston? Hannah.
Yeah, I kind of want to say my favorite MSc class was 113 too. Like, I didn't do the best in it, but it was also like, I really liked the professor. He was like my PI, and also the grad student. I was working under her. And also the people in the class were just like so collaborative and so like goofy. Like for Halloween, we all dressed up as Richie, and that was the best thing. That was like the best Halloween ever. And we all
Richie's our professor, by the way.
What?
We haven't said this. Richie is the professor for 113.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Guy is
Investigator, right?
Principal
investigator, private investigator.
Principal investigator. I was like, what?
That's what he looks like.
So one of our classmates bought us all fake mustaches.
And we all wore like dress shirts and like tucked them in.
And he was like he's the sweetest professor ever with like a British accent. That's hard to like understand, but it's great. I want to say for my favorite non-MSc class for lower div, it would be E7, which is not people's, which is the MATLAB class. I don't know what it's called.
Intro to Programming for Engineers.
Yeah, which is like what we're learning.
No, I'm on this camp with you of like, it wasn't a terrible course, but I know some people really hated it.
Yeah, I did take it spring semester, so that is why. Spring semester is better. If you guys take E7, take it spring.
Oh yeah, to the people who might be taking it fall, I tutor for E7, so catch me at the Center for Access to Engineering. CAEE. Yeah. I'll help you very like a lot.
It's good stuff. It's
Steven.
This is where we get a difference of opinion. I did not enjoy MSc 113, but I'm not a mechanics person. I enjoyed MSc 103 the best, which is the phase transformations and kinetics course that teaches you how phase diagrams work and how you can figure out even what's going to grow and what's not going to grow, what materials will even appear, and why the phases appear. And it's taught by a great professor who I guess only occasionally teaches now, but hopefully you guys can get him. And for favorite non-MSc class, I would say Physics 137B. This is another one where it's like, why are you saying that? And my answer, it's Physics 137B is the second quantum course, and it's one where like you struggle to a level in which you become genuine friends with the people that you're with because you're struggling. And also just happened to be an incredibly useful topic because I use it in my research now. So it's like a pretty useful class that also like taught me what hell would be like.
Okay, I think that's me. I guess like this is probably, I've heard this is a really unpopular opinion, but I liked 102. It's kind of painful, I think, a little bit, but I feel like I learned a lot. And I really like classes where I feel smart. So in 102, I felt stupid for a very long time. Don't get me wrong. But I think like when you figure it out, it like is such a satisfactory feeling. Like I felt like really good about myself. And I just felt like I was learning something very new. Like I felt like I was learning something that no other major would need to learn. So it felt very like material science to me, I think. Yeah.
What is the crystallography and bonding course?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, it's the bonding, crystallography, crystal defects. And I remember like studying with my friends during finals week, and they're not MSc majors, and they would look at my screen and be like, what are all of those symbols like on your screen? And there was a bunch of like stereographic projections, and then they're like, just looks like circles with a bunch of squares and things. But it felt nice to like learn something that I thought was like new or different, almost like quote unquote unexpected. Favorite non-MSc class, I really liked IEOR 170, so that's Industrial Engineering Operations Research 170. I think the course title is like Human Factors and Ergonomics. So you get to learn a lot about like the ergonomics of certain structures and like, oh, like this like action causes wrist pain. So I thought it was pretty interesting because like I have a lot of joint pain. So, and I think it was also pretty cool because you had a project that you worked on. So one of the groups I thought was pretty cool was they decided that, when you moved your clothes from the washer to the dryer, it's like a lot of like work for your back to like bring it and like move it to a different location, and it's just inconvenient. So they designed a prototype of a washer dryer unit where after your clothes finish washing, there's a flap that automatically releases it into the dryer and starts the dry cycle. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to come back, and you don't have to like hurt your back as much. My group was working on like ergonomic seat supports for bus drivers. So I thought that was a pretty cool class to kind of like look into like very real life applications and then apply your knowledge.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Do any of these questions spark joy to you guys? Or no? I guess we could do this. I feel like most people are like, oh my god, cal's hard. How do I do this? So study tip, routine, mistakes. I think one mistake I made as a freshman was like I thought I think in high school in high school you're like, oh, I could just study for the test like one day before or the night before. But oh boy, was I wrong. I think it's good to start at least a week before. If you've been following the lecture material and doing your homeworks religiously, I think a week before is not unreasonable, but some people like to start 2 weeks before or sometimes 3 weeks before. And just put in time and effort into your homeworks and actually learn them. Like no matter like what's on Chegg or like Slater or whatever, like doing it yourself does help you learn and just makes the studying process for your midterms and finals like a lot easier. Do you guys have any study tips?
Check answers with people.
Yeah.
Check your homework with people. Make sure that you know what's going on, I guess. Because I've saved so many lost points by just asking, hey, what did you do for like question 4? And them giving me a number that's like 2 orders of magnitude off. I'm just like, maybe I messed up. Other than that, I think you covered most of it. Just stay prepared.
Oh, I think someone asked why 102 was hard.
Yeah, I just heard that I think there's a lot of new concepts that I was like introduced to for the first time. Like I had never used a tensor before. That was before they changed the curriculum to have Physics 89. But yeah, like I never learned about tensors before. Stereographic projections was super whack for me because like it took me forever to wrap my head around it. But I think, it was just new because like I had never learned those things before. But I think at the same time, that was also what made it so interesting. Because I never did this before. Yeah, 3D thinking can be hard. So I think that was kind of hard for me. I'm very much more is it called like a tactile learner? So having the Rubik's Cube helped a lot for me to like actually touch it and move it around.
Yeah, 102 was probably one of my worst classes.
Same here.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions. It's also 1 p.m. So we can stick around. If you guys want to stick around, you guys can. I don't know. Is there at Medina or I think Medina is hosting this. Do we have?
You'll get kicked out.
Do we get kicked out? Yeah, you guys are welcome to stay or and keep asking questions or leave. I don't think so. Okay.
Cool.
I guess it's like we don't get any new questions. Again, please try to like put it on meeting posts just because it's easier to keep track of like things that are like questions that you guys want us to answer versus like questions that are just randomly asked. That's the link again. Send it. I guess we'll stay till I think 1:10, and then if you guys don't have any more questions, yeah, feel free to leave and stuff, and then.
Oh yeah, nice plug.
Oh yeah, join our Discord.
Rise up, gamers.
Let's go.
Did I tell you I changed my League of Legends name to Hearst Mining?
Did you really? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Nice.
How common is a joint major between materials and another engineering major? I don't actually know.
How common?
Oh, what are stereographic projections? Yeah, Stephen, if you have like a picture.
I don't have a
got a tattoo of it right here.
I don't want a picture. Can someone else pull up a picture? I'm on my laptop, actually. That's why.
Conceptually, stereographic projections are a way to view crystals that are in 3D, traditionally 3D, but in a 2D manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a tattoo of it, but I didn't want to look like a nerd. So
it looks like something like this here. This, again, if you're like a freshman or something, like don't be confused. And Sean will teach it to you and show you what it is.
Very well.
But yeah, it's just like a way to represent kind of like, yeah, like points on like a 3D object, but in a 2D way. What are your future plans? Oh God.
Small fingers, man. Oh,
no.
I don't know.
Plan for the immediate time is to apply to grad school, pray to get in. If I don't get in, I'd have no
You're gonna
plans.
get in, Steven.
Yeah, there's no way you're not going to get in. Find a job. I don't want to do school anymore. I'm tired.
I might do a master's because I don't want to do school for a long time after, but maybe a short time.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna try to apply to jobs and see where that goes, honestly. And I think in the future I want to go back and get my master's and maybe do PhD. But we'll see on how much I care about school.
Yeah, it's whatever I get into, right? It's kind of like one of those things. Like I'll see what my options are after grad and then pick. Yeah.
Is engineering orientation over for today? I don't know.
No idea.
No. Who's doing undergrad research? I guess all of us.
All of us?
Yeah.
Who is
Msc? Someone explain the bouncy ball demo.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone else here does polymers, not me.
I suck at explaining.
Let me see if I can pull up the thing real quick.
Oh, of course.
What's a cool MSc topic you can explain?
Yes, conductivity.
I'm trying to think. Cool
Do we want to do the bouncy ball demo?
We could, or I'm trying to think of other things that are cool to explain.
Yeah, it's more physics, but there's magic angle graphene, which I literally explained like an hour ago. Barely. I don't have it up here.
Yeah, my brain can't work. I don't know what this thing is, but
If you take the time to look up magic angle graphene, it's graphene where you have two layers, but one layer is rotated like 1.1 degrees from the other layer. And when you rotate it that way, you end up with both superconductivity and insulation, depending on the magnetic field applied to it.
Holy crap.
oh wow.
But yeah, it's graphene, but slight twist. And then somehow you pick up
Only
magic.
at 1.1 degrees?
What?
Only 1.1? Anything like bigger doesn't work, anything smaller doesn't work?
There might be other ones, but 1.1 is the first one that was discovered.
Is that like the most effective one?
Yeah, or at least it's the only one that's really been figured out yet. It's really young. Like the experimental results happened like 2 or 4 years ago, I think.
Oh, holy crap. Okay.
Paper by Pablo Cirillo Herrera or something like that. It's some MIT guy who did it in recent times. Yeah. How many layers? I believe it's just 2. I believe it's just bilayer graphene because you need to have the 2 layers oriented off by that 1.6 whatever. 1.1, I mean, degrees.
That's insane. That's pretty cool,
Yeah.
actually.
I feel like chemistry and physics people do more research on that, though.
Yeah. We tried. Have any of you ever gone to meetings for engineering clubs like Cal, Space Technologies, etc.? I remember my freshman year, I went to like the Cal, it's like a rocket club. I can't remember what it's called.
Star. It's just Star. It used to be CalStar. Now it's just Star. Right?
Yeah, I think I went when it was called CalStar. And yeah, it's cool. Some people in our major do participate in these clubs, like some people do, like solar car or whatever. It's doable. Like people, I think sometimes it feels really intimidating. At least for me, I was like, oh, I study this thing, but I have no skills, nor the classes I'm going to take really going to apply here until like maybe when I'm a senior. So where,
Yeah, I agree.
you know, people who are EECS or MECI or Civi will have like immediate like knowledge and experience. But, you know, you also, same with like internships and research, you'll learn on the job. But I honestly think that student organizations are a lot more pickier on like if you have previous experience or not, because usually they're trying to like win competitions and that kind of stuff. I know that the ESC, the Engineering Student Council, is trying to change that up and make it so people don't need as much like background like skills before joining these clubs, because it does like discriminate against certain people.
Yeah.
Not to like talk down about these people. It's just that's just the fact of like these clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Let me check the chat. You can ask us anything. Like, doesn't have to be MSc or engineering related. It can be like random stuff.
I don't know.
Hannah, what do you do for fun?
Watch a lot of K-drama, animes, shows, a lot of reality TV shows. I mean, before COVID, I like to go to like music events, hang out with friends, eat a lot of good food. Yeah, now I can't do that, so trying to convert to the introvert life, I guess, which is kind of. But yeah, have like, I guess, random calls sometimes with a group of friends, and, like try to not be sad about COVID. You know. Oh, recently I've been doing like food challenges just for fun, like spicy food challenges. That's been pretty interesting and fun.
That's cool.
Doable during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess like now what I do for fun is like a lot of going on walks and running and hikes. I exercise a lot. I hang out with my dog and my family. I spend a lot of time on YouTube. I can get really sucked into like political stuff. So like Last Week Tonight, or like I listen to The Daily, which is by the New York Times.
For me, I don't know. What do I do normally for fun? I don't know. Like, I don't think much has changed, except I can't go outside physically and play basketball. But I used to play a lot of basketball when I was on campus, like 4 to 5 times a week. Now I just have to watch it online. I'm a Lakers fan, so this is a really good season for me. I started learning guitar over quarantine. I like to letter, so I do a lot of like digital like lettering art and like bullet journaling. But otherwise, that's kind of it. Oh, I also like reality TV, so I've been patiently waiting for the next season of The Bachelorette. But yeah.
I've been living the introvert lifestyle. I've been pretty good since the beginning. I just played a lot of video games with people and then watch a lot of anime. It's pretty standard, I feel like. No.
Okay. Okay.
I'm good.
It's probably really good. I really like The Bachelorette, the person they chose.
Maybe we should watch this MSCA.
You need to watch. It's so fun.
Okay, time to quit.
Do you sleep enough? Honestly, before
Yes.
quarantine, not really, but like now I do. But yeah, I wake up early. Steven, I feel like you sleep weird ass hours.
Oh, I fixed it. This summer, I used to sleep from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Now I'm sleeping from 12 to 1 a.m. to 8 to 9 a.m. So relatively
Okay.
reasonable, good amount of time hours. So my sleep is fixed now. It's sometimes very bad.
I don't sleep enough. I'm trying to. Like, as I grow older, I realize I need it more. Like, as a freshman, oh my gosh, my young body could do like 3 to 4 hours. Now it's like if I don't get a solid 8 to 9 hours, I'm so angry, like all the time. I'm so tired and I just like can't do anything. It's so sad. I don't know when it happened, but man, 18-year-old Amanda Guan, oh, she could do anything, man. Oh,
I feel that, Mac.
my joints hurt all the time. I'm an orientation leader this year, and like my students are all freshmen or new first years, and literally, oh my gosh, I feel so old.
Okay. Have you drank your water yet this morning? If not, would you go drink some? I mean, I do.
Cheers.
I did finish. Yeah, I finished. Let's go.
Do we have the same water bottle? I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I think so. I don't think the lid is the same, but it is this color. now,
That
which is-
brand, yeah. I think mine's a little more teal.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Thanks for the water.
drinking water is very important.
Thank God. Without that question, I would have dehydrated.
Yeah, thank
Man.
you for saving my life.
Man.
Best places to visit in Berkeley or SF. So this is where I'm going to say something. Hey, you shouldn't be go visiting places. It's COVID-19. Stop spreading the virus.
Don't tell them until the pandemic's over. That's the trick.
Okay, but if you are going to be outdoors, go when there's no one there. So if you're going to hike the Big C because you're on campus or whatever, and they let you out for some reason out of your dorm, go in off-peak hours, like really early in the morning or random ass times during the day. Don't go during sunset because that's when most people go.
Then wear a mask.
Don't go to SF because I'm assuming you don't have a car. Don't take BART. It's COVID.
Yeah. Don't go to SF. Not at the moment.
Yeah. Sorry, that's like a pretty shitty answer.
Sorry.
to say, but-
No, you're right. I think we have to give this answer or else we don't want to accidentally encourage them to leave.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? All right. Well, it seems like a lot of people have left. And it's 1:15, so I think we're gonna head out. But see you guys at our first general meeting or on Discord. Hang out with us. Wait.
If it mutates enough, maybe.
Yeah, it
Yo.
still keeps its year, right? All the time.
It's like the year it like was like quote unquote discovered or like found or something like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not virologists.
virologist, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Have a nice day. Stay inside. Don't go to parties. Yeah.
Please.
COVID's out there.
Thanks, Mom.
All right.